Hello, everyone. My name is Jacek. I lead the low-code and no-code department at Netguru. Today, with my guests from Mendix, Menno and Rick, we will be talking about low-code. Menno, Rick, are you there?
Absolutely, we're here.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining our live stream. So, before we dig into details, let's start with basics. So, gentlemen, can you help me to explain what low-code actually is? Let's try to avoid technical jargon, okay? My mom is probably watching it and she would be over the moon if she understands what I do for a living. So can you try to explain in simple words, what is low-code? What are the key benefits of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Shall I go, Menno? Give it a try?
You try first.
Okay, sure. I get this question a lot. What is low code? What is Mendix? I've been working with Mendix for the last 11 years. And believe me, I had quite some difficulty in explaining this at birthday parties. And, you know, people would just zone out and all of a sudden had to go to the toilet. So I'll try to keep this simple. So Mendix is a platform to build web and mobile applications. And we all know applications that could be those things that we have on our phones, but also complex business applications. And we do that by visually modeling. So instead of having to type code, and I have a business background, I can already tell you I do not understand lines of code, but we use visual models to build this software. And that allows you not only to go a lot faster, because you don't have to type these lines of code, but more importantly, you can involve people from the business that actually have knowledge of all the processes in the development process. And that allows you to build applications faster, but also you know that what you're building is actually what is necessary, because you're constantly verifying that what you're building is actually the right thing. And because of that, we drastically shorten the time of development. And I think that's the biggest advantage of low code.
Menno, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I can say a lot of things, but I think Rick is absolutely right. So, but it is a tool, a vehicle for pretty much everybody to use, right? I think that's important. It's no longer an art form in the sense of you have to learn programming. You can use it pretty much with anybody can actually use it. So the platform provides all the functions. We call it the abstraction on top of the technical parts. So without knowing all the technical nitty-gritty, you can still build an application really quickly. And that's the simple answer. And I'm sure we'll get into more details later, but that's for me what it is.
Of course. So building something visually, that sounds like a very limited solution. And I think that for someone who's not familiar with platforms like Mendix, that might be a concern. So for now, I have a challenge for you guys. I would like to try to break down the post I've recently found on LinkedIn about low code. It was a post written by Principal Architect from Google. So, and he posted a lot of unpleasant statement about low code. So I would like, together with you, go line by line and try to address all the concerns of that person. We don't have to reveal the name. It's not relevant at this point, but let's try to discuss all these concerns, okay? So the first part, let me read it to you. The platform you pick today will be irrelevant in 5 years. So what about Mendix? You mentioned, Rick, that you've been working with Mendix for over 10 years now. So what is your opinion on that?
So let me start with saying, like, I understand the concerns, and I think both me and Menno, we've been in this space for many years, me more than 10 years, and they're all very understandable. And sometimes you also think like low code also means low complexity. So these are things that are we've heard many times. In terms of relevance, well, the fact that this industry is growing means that we're sort of relevant, but I think if we specifically look at Mendix and how we make sure that we are relevant in a couple of years, it's all about content. I think low code eventually will become a commodity. Every company will have some sort of low-code platform. But what we are investing in right now is to be relevant for you in a specific market. So we're building or investing or making it possible to have industry-specific content on our platform readily available, so that you can speed up that development process even further. And I think that's the way that we like to stay relevant. But in terms of low-code in general, I think that's here to stay. That's an evolution that is not going to stop. And it's all about abstracting away complexity, and that's happening all around us, and not only in software development. Look at the recent developments with ChatGPT. I know everyone's talking about it. But Menno, maybe you would like to add something to that?
Yeah, I can definitely. So I'm daily involved in basically shaping the future, right? So where are we going to be in 5 years? And I think if we don't do anything, maybe we will no longer be relevant in 5 years. But we are continuously evolving our capabilities, and we do a lot of scenario analysis on the various futures that we think can happen. And for one thing, there's never a scenario for me in my mind where I think low code is no longer relevant. We may call it differently. It may look very differently. Abstraction is a very key thing we're thinking about, having ready components, even more sophisticated than, let's say, any basic components that we see today. So even yet another group of people can start assembling information. So yeah, I think we're evolving maybe into an assembly type of application platform. Whether we still call it low code, I do not know, but I think we're going to be extremely relevant. If you look at what the customers we speak to now, we think they're in the early majority. There's still a late majority. There's a whole bunch of organizations having no such capability as we can offer, and many of our competitors offer, right? So there is still a huge demand. I don't think we're no longer relevant. It will be different, for sure, but we are working hard to keep up and get all the new advancements in technology in our platform on a daily basis.
So, of course, it's a matter of picking the right platform, right? And from what I see so far, you're doing a great job of staying relevant. But I've been working with low code for over a decade as well. And I know platforms that are still on the market, under active maintenance, like FileMaker, for example, from Apple. It's not a competition, it's not a competitor of Mendix, but still, it's a pure no-code tool, and it's on the market for over 20 years now. So I think we see a very strong growing trend, not the other way. So like you mentioned, it might be a different name. It will definitely evolve, but low-code is here to stay. But just need to pick the right platform with strong community. And speaking of community, another statement is that you will not find people to maintain the platform and will end up creating an organizational silo around it. So it's a question about the talent, I believe. So how is the low-code talent market, in your opinion, doing? From what I know, we have almost 250,000 Mendix developers in your community. So how you can refer to that?
Yeah, if I can start, Rick, I think of course it's a valid concern. The way we address it is, I think, by first and foremost making it easy. So reducing the complexity of learning very specific skills necessarily and keeping them up to date. So we, with that approach, also reach a new set of type of people that previously were not engaged in application development, and I think that's the crux. So I mean, there's going to be a place for pro coders, there's going to be a place for low coders, and we focus on the pool of people that don't come from a pro code perspective, perhaps, and get those on board of low code, making it easy, having an ability to get to business results quickly. So I think there's plenty of people in this world. There's people that work with technology on a day-to-day basis. And if we can get some of those into learning low code, I think the talent pool is easily resolved. For that matter, that's at least what we're aiming to do.
So I think it's a good moment to mention, sorry, Rick, before I give you the voice, it's a good moment to mention Mendix Studio at this point, that you bring also not only professional developers, but also citizen developers, right? Without technical background.
Yeah, absolutely. So our philosophy is that we want to cater to all spectrum of developers, from the very citizen developer to, let's say, the business analyst in the middle, or whatever you call them, and the pro developers that are really about the core technical part of an application, the architecture part, for instance. And we want to cater to all of them. So our IDE, our working studios, are catering to them, to the various maturity of the person working with it, and also the technical appetite, right? So different people want different things in a building environment. So we provide that very differentiated. That's a clear path in our roadmap as well. Perhaps we talk about it later, but in an extent we'll see yet another evolution of that capability, right? So it's ongoing to stay relevant, but you're right. Multiple studios or a studio that is adapting. All these terms make sense to cater to that broad spectrum of developers.
Yes, I fully agree. Rick, would you like to add something?
Yes, this is such a good topic, because this is exactly the reason why a lot of organizations approach us to deal with this problem, because I speak to organizations that all are suffering under the fact that they cannot get any developers, or that developers are leaving for all the right or wrong reasons. And by broadening, as mentioned, said, that potential pool of developers, by making it easy, by taking away the complexity, that's how we deal with this problem. And that's why I think Mendix and low code in general is making such an impact on the world, actually, making it possible for people without a developing programming background to develop applications. And this is the reason why I'm still with Mendix, after more than 10 years, and see that we're actually making impact.
Yes, of course. We can even see, regarding the talent, we can even see dedicated job boards for low-code and no-code experts. And I think that proves that low-code is not going anywhere soon, and even more talent in that will come to this technology. Now, okay, let's read another part of the comment. Single individuals leaving your company or partner will have you in jeopardy. The handover is much easier because of the more, So it's about turnover, right? You need to replace your developer in the team. And let's assume the worst case scenario, you have a single low-code developer in your team, is responsible for your applications, and suddenly he's leaving the company. So is it a real threat for low-code application?
Well, maybe first of all, it is a real threat for companies, and like I just said, the war on talent for developers is intense out there. I think everyone is struggling with that, as I just mentioned. This is also something that we can deal with in terms of low code, because the code base is actually, and Menno can talk about this a lot better from a technical point of view, but it's a lot better to understand for a different developer or even entirely different organization to take that code base, to take those visual models and develop further on those models. So it makes it a lot easier. It deals with the risk of people leaving. And yeah, Menno, maybe from your own experience, you can talk about looking at a code base from a different developer. I haven't had that experience.
Oh, lucky you. No, unlucky you. No, I think, Rick, you're right. But first, I want to make a small comment. So if you're embracing a local platform for a single app or as a single individual, I think that's perhaps not the intent, at least not the intent of our platform. I think it's important that we understand that low code is purely a technology, and with it comes, a center of excellence, best practices, and whatever you name it. So we typically see situations where there's multiple people, but yet the people leaving is always a challenge. And coming back to the visual modeling, I think being a visual model makes it easier for other people to pick it up and move on. especially also in low-code technologies such as Mendix, refactoring an application is easier. It's a fact that if you change something, let's say in the domain structure, in the data, maybe you change an attribute or something, the low-code tool will tell you where this is impacted, right? That you will not always have with other environments. So you can very quickly, I guess, find somebody else that doesn't need to have any deep specific technical skills on a specific language or a specific framework to pick it up, right? So I think low-code even helps you finding other people. And we sometimes, it sounds strange, but we sometimes help our customers to put low-code on the job board because it has a modern feel to it. So it's kind of like a attraction towards this customer. The customer is looking for low-code developers, which they certainly find new people, young people to hop on, right? So there's many things. I don't think this argument is really valid. It's not what I see, at least in practice.
Yes, I can only confirm from my experience that with low-code we have this, everything is well organized. You have your flows, microflows, views, and everything. In traditional programming, it depends how well it's designed. So you can have a huge monolith and code mixed, views with business logic and so on. So from my experience, it's much easier for me to go through all the building elements of my application in Mendix, for example, and understand the business logic of it and start, introducing new features and making improvements. Okay, let's go to the next point. So there is probably a niche for low code, and I think it's extending the life of existing legacy systems and processes by rapidly passing new internal UIs and APIs on top that have a short life cycle and only minor updates. So it's a question about what's the main purpose of low code? Because according to this statement, it's only to support legacy applications, to add some UIs to existing app, or maybe some APIs. Do you agree with that?
I don't. While the use case you describe is a valid one, we see it. I think there's so many others that we see in practice, whether it's from customer-facing mobile applications towards, indeed, core replacements or sitting on top of an existing application to provide a modernized UI or gluing different type of applications together. There's a whole mixture of use cases for low code. We keep track of what our customers build with our technology, and we see a fair even spread across all these initiatives. Gartner says, and we have to take it for what it's worth, but they say 60% or 70% of all development in the near future will be done low code, and this is across all types of applications. And I think it's true. We've proven, and this was maybe not so like 10 years back or 5 years back, but I think currently we've proven to be a very good platform for very mission critical type applications, right? So if there is a misperception that this is for short-lived simple apps, that's no longer the case. And there's also no real practical limit to what you can do in low code. There's always things you may not want to do, but you can build very sophisticated applications. So I don't think this holds true. And there's plenty of evidence that we can bring to the table to actually show it's not.
So I would like to once again, Rick, before you express your opinion, I would like to get back to what you mentioned about the model when you support legacy application with your Mendix application. So what are the options to really connect to your legacy system?
Yeah, so it's a little bit depending on the legacy, right? So we have quite a fair amount of connectors that we find in our marketplace. This is the content part that Rick mentioned in the beginning. So we provide content for developers to really quickly connect to other systems, for instance. So there's a high chance your legacy systems connector is there. If it's not, it's something you could construct. There's a whole bunch of integration capabilities in the platform. RESTful, SOAP-based, XML-based, file-based, and older technologies. We come across, you can imagine every type of integration, and there's ways to integrate for sure. So that's something you could build, and so on top of legacy, we have a nice spot. So you keep the legacy as is because it's probably too expensive to touch, and through this integration mechanism, we have a flexible layer on top, and which makes a very good business case. You build it very quickly with low code in general.
Yeah,
Rick?
maybe just to add, so again, this is what makes Mendix such a beautiful product, but also so difficult to explain because there's so many use cases, and that's the beauty of it. So what you mentioned is, yes, you can extend an existing system when it's, as Menno said, probably just too costly to change it, and then it may have a limited role, right? It may just be that nice front end with a bit of logic. But you can also do that complex legacy migration, and the range, the spectrum of complexity is very broad. Again, it makes my life pretty difficult because to explain what it is, and you say like, well, you can do almost anything. People are just don't want that answer, right? But for a large part, it's true.
Yes, I fully agree. I encounter the same challenge every day, to be honest. So the clients wants to hear about the constraints and limitations, what is impossible. We'll get to that in a minute because the next topic is about limitations. So let me read it to you. So now it's about it's the first comment below the post. Very interesting as well. Let me read it to you. I think low code is great if you need to create one view on top of your CRM, for example. But when you're building entire applications with low code, you can implement 90% of the features really fast, 95% with huge effort, and last 5% is not possible. So my question to you guys, what about those 5%, missing 5% that can kill your project?
Yeah. Let me take this one. So I'm not going to say that everything is suitable for low code. That's simply not true. There is always something you need to think about, whether you can buy something versus build. That's a very valid discussion. And even I would say if you can buy a solution which does 80% of what you need, it's probably the better alternative than completely building it from scratch in low code. But if you decide and you make a good decision after carefully evaluating your options, and you make a decision to build an application, then a lot can be done in low code. And it's true that you can go really fast on the first 80%, 90%, whatever. And there's always the hard bit, the more difficult bit, typically in the form of integration or front end. Perhaps you need a very specific widget. Now, where I have a problem with in the statement is the statement that then you're stuck. I think we're called low code for a reason, and we're not called no code. I think there's a fundamental difference, is that if you cannot express your functionality in low code artifacts like pre-built components, you can, in our technology, fall back into code. So on that level, and it's still part of the model, it's just textual code instead of a visual model, but you can still implement that last 5%. So there is hardly anything that I don't think you can build. Now, the only thing I do want to say, if you find that whatever you need to build, you need 80% to fall back on the code level in your low-code tool, you have chosen the wrong tool, clearly. So we do keep track what our customers do, and we see them using, let's say, the code extensions, use them for what, 4% average, depends on the project, some none, some more, but that's a healthy bit. You have not the acceleration perhaps that you would have in the visual model, but if it's in a few percentage, you're totally fine, and you can implement that last pixel perfectness or that last bit of technical integration. So yeah, that's why we're low code. So again, you go fast on the low code bit, you spend a bit of extra time on the coding bit inside of your low code tool, but you can get to the 100% of functionality typically. That's what we see.
So that's the beauty of low code, right? The synergy between programming, traditional programming, and the super fast development environment you provide.
Yeah.
Okay. now I'd like to make one step back. I missed one point of the LinkedIn post. So let's get back to this. Moving core systems to software as a service is a good idea. Building customizations into them should be a thing of the past. So it's about customizing software as a service applications. Now, let me start with this one, because I believe that building custom software is the way to embrace your unique value proposition. And you shouldn't be forced to fit into these off-the-shelf products every time. So for me, a low-code is like a holy grail of building, especially internal applications. So it's a right balance between writing code and very big effort, and using something which is available out of the box and is very limited and not adjusted to your needs.
Yeah. So first of all, I like the fact that they're speaking about customizations on top of off-the-shelf software, because I also speak to organizations and they would say, oh no, we don't do any bespoke functionality, or we stay away of customizations because we're not that different than other organizations. So, and we only buy off the shelf. I think that is a massive missed opportunity to differentiate yourself from your competition. And you can do that by building customizations or customized software. And we provide a platform to do that. I would never advise to do that within your off-the-shelf software, because I think the lessons from the past have all taught us to not do that, because you're going to get stuck. It's going to be this great monolithic thing, and it's something that, you know, we've got a good partnership with, for example, SAP. Even they advise, if you're going to S4HANA, you're going to do this implementation, make sure that you keep the core clean. Don't, you know, fall in the same mistake as we've done in the past with major customizations. And I think a platform like Mendix is perfect to put that layer on top of your core systems, whether it's ERP or CRM, and to have your bespoke functionality in a, you know, a modern, well-orchestrated layer, and where you can be able to differentiate yourself from your competition. That's where your special mix is as an organization. That's my opinion.
So you mentioned SAP. Do we have any kind of tools that can help us to use Mendix to extend our ERP system, SAP system?
Yes,
of course, I'm asking
Menno
about
can
Mendix
tell you all about it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, indeed. So we have a working partnership with SAP on their R&D and our R&D to build, let's say, the bridges to connect us. Connect us that take care of authentication and of connectivity between different clouds or on-prem even. So basically, all the scaffolding is there for a local developer just to utilize. So they build an application which looks like perhaps like Fiori style guide or whatever. It looks like Fiori, interacts with SAP, takes care of the user authentication part very seamlessly. So that's the kind of connectors that we offer as part of this partnership. And if SAP evolves, we evolve. We keep that in sync. Basically, I think that's what makes it easy. So you can keep the core clean. I think that's a term they use as well. You know, do as little customization in your core component and build on top of that your unique differentiating capability using low code or a mixture of low code and SAP technology. It doesn't all have to be low code, but the concept, of course, applies to other types of technologies equally.
So what you're saying, it's about integration and not putting all your custom functionality inside of your, let's say, ERP system, right? Because otherwise you couple your custom business logic with the ERP system, and when you want to replace your ERP system or at least make a major update, then you will struggle with all your customization you've done so far. So as you mentioned, Rick, so the best practice is to actually take that unique part of your business logic outside of the off-the-shelf software and connect through different APIs, right?
Exactly that. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we've mentioned that low code was present many, many years ago. It's not that new thing. So I often hear an argument that Gartner's predictions that we are in the middle of some kind of low code revolution are not right, since low code was here, have been here for 20, 30 years, as I mentioned, and even you work for Mendix more than 10 years already. So why now? Why now we are in the moment when a revolution is happening? Can you refer to that?
Yeah. So maybe just from experience, so the term low code is roughly 8 years old. I started with Mendix 11 years ago as a business development person. And I was talking about rapid development or even model-driven development. And the first thing or the first reaction was like, okay, that's never going to work. We tried it for GL. We did it in the 90s. It didn't work. And I think maybe the technology, it wasn't ready yet, right? And what we see now, as Menno explained, that the constraints of the platform have become less and less, and you can build more and more powerful and complex applications with it. And I think that's the key of this evolution, that it just keeps on going. And as I mentioned, it's all part of the way of taking away complexity and making sure that we focus on what something needs to do, on the functionality. And I think that's why it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Do you think
If
maybe
I
that?
Can I comment?
Yeah, Menno.
Yeah.
Please go.
Because you say the technology wasn't ready. Maybe the technology was ready, but I think that the people were not ready. Maybe it's the same thing we're saying, Rick. But I think at the time, the people weren't working and thinking the way they do now. And if I see my kids, build new worlds in Roblox and all these tools, right? It's a completely different way of how people look at things, assembling stuff very quickly. So I think now the way visually building is done is much more fitting what organizations now are starting to adopt. So I think we as humans had to learn to use the technology perhaps more than the other way around. So I do think now I don't think it's revolutionary or this is the year, right? I think we're picking up pace. I see a lot of interest in customers going into low code. Some even have had their first low code experiences and are now looking for something better. And yeah, I think it's picking up quite dramatically, and that's because the way we work, the way we also as people want to work. I want to have my own tools on my laptop. I decide what tools I use. I don't want to be restricted as much as before. I want to assemble it all together. Basically, that's at least where I think we're going to. So I think that the people have changed, the world has changed, and now it's definitely the platforms like us that have to make that a reality.
On the other hand, I think we all agree that low code evolved significantly throughout the years. And my question is, guys, do you think that cloud helped low code to grow? Actually, does it impacted the speed of growth? The growing popularity of cloud solutions, cloud architecture in general?
Yeah, big time. I think, basically what we're trying to solve is bringing applications to production or in use as quick as possible, right? And if you're building fast, but you can't deploy fast, you're still slow. So cloud and cloud adoption has certainly helped us to bridge the whole problem, right? So the two, for me, go very much hand in hand. Well, as you can see in our product stack, we've been embracing the cloud before it was actually a big thing in the time, taking away those the ops concerns, those deploy concerns from our customers. So I think the two go very much hand in hand, and and that will continue to evolve.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, let me explain that with Mendix, you can deploy your application with a single click. Basically, if you use Mendix Cloud, you don't need DevOps, you don't need super cloud engineers. You just click one button and boom, your app is available online on a stable and reliable infrastructure, right? Because you can pick many vendors. As far as I know, you're not even bound to a single cloud vendor. You have multiple options.
Yeah, that's a fact indeed. So of course, if you pick the easy option, that's the single button, then it goes into the Mendix cloud, which is AWS, to a location near you. But some organizations have different requirements. They want it on-prem in their own Kubernetes stack or their own other stack, or they want it in their own Azure stack, let's say. All those options exist. I think that's one of our principles in the beginning, that we don't force our customers to choose particular stacks. We allow them to pick from the many popular brands, and we make sure that we run on these, whether that's cloud or on-prem. Yeah.
Great, perfect. Rick, would you like to add something?
No, I was just thinking maybe it's the other way around. The statement that you made, like, does low code? No, you said like, did cloud help low code? But maybe it's the other way around. Maybe low code helps sell cloud. Exactly.
Interesting concept.
I think we're also working very closely together with AWS, and that's exactly for that reason, right? I mean, we make it easy to deploy on them, and the other way around. So it goes hand in hand.
Well, getting back to the evolution of low code, I like this analogy with old mobile phones. If you compare old Nokia with little plastic keyboard with the newest smartphone, right now we are able to replace our computers. We can not only communicate, but we can also use our camera. We can create content. We have so much computing power in such a small device. But back then, we could only do simple communication, right? So from looking from this perspective at low code, we have a similar amount of innovation and change in low code throughout the years, I believe, from what I noticed.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'd like to move to a little bit less comfortable topic for all of us. Let's talk about risks and limitations, okay? And I would like to start with vendor lock-in. Very popular term. It's a situation when you basically rely on a single vendor, and you are, vendor decides how the managed platform and what's the roadmap. They do the final decisions. So you might be afraid that the pricing will change dramatically for you. So how Mendix and Siemens addresses this issue?
Yeah. So this is a very fair question, and for every decision you make in life, there's a lock-in to it. I drive a certain car, or I have a certain coffee machine, which limits the coffee cups that I can buy, right? So first, I want to make sure that we understand that every decision has a consequence and has a lock-in effect. But I'm not going to lie about low code for sure. If you go on a certain low code flavor, you're designing a model based on that particular flavor. So if there's ever a need, you need to leave or want to make a different decision, and there could be all kinds of reasons. Then what do you do, right? We are part of Siemens, so financially we're a very stable organization. So there's probably little reason for that to leave. But I can think of many other concerns you may have for leaving. Let's suppose you have a valid reason and you want to get out. It is our philosophy that if you want to get out, we provide you with an option. That option is what we call a model SDK. Basically, we're not going to force you to exit in a certain path. Say, for instance, the exit is C#, the exit is Java, or the exit is another low-code tool or whatever, right? You probably don't know. If you start low coding now, in 5 years' time, you want to exit, you do not know where you want to exit onto. It could be C# with a certain version, certain framework. You really don't know. So what our philosophy is that we provide this model SDK that gives you an option to programmatically basically interrogate the metadata model. So how many screens do I have? What forms are on the screen? What data model I have? You get answers, obviously. And with that model SDK, you can build a transition into something else, whatever you choose that to be. That could be code. We have a reference implementation for Java, so you can export your model into Java. It's not going to be fully working, but your intellectual property is taken out, and you can get it from there and repurpose it or rebuild it into something working again in your target destination. So that is our philosophy towards exit. So the alternative would have been that you push a button and you get runnable code in a certain flavor. We don't think that is the right approach, because that really locks you down to that artificially or computer-generated code, which you can't maintain. So we don't believe in that computer-generated code, that it's for your organization easy to maintain. And mind you, our customers are in this for, let's say, a large number of applications. It's not a single app. They're in this for 10, 20. We have customers that are having over hundreds of applications. And then you need to really think about programmatically migrating those apps out of your low code, instead of pushing code button to get to code and having an unmaintainable application, certainly for the long run. So that's our philosophy. So yes, there is some lock-in. We have some philosophy how customers can get out. We even help them writing exit strategy reports on that. So they have a yearly test of, can we exit, how do we do it, keep it up to date, etc., etc. So it's an important topic, but we certainly help our customers in having the right answer to that difficult question.
Yeah. So it's not a silver bullet, right? This Mendix SDK, but this model SDK, but it helps.
It helps, yeah. It definitely helps. Yeah, it's not a silver bullet. I fully with you there, but it certainly helps, and it gives our customers enough guarantees that if the moment comes, when the moment comes, and they have 10 applications built on Mendix, they have an option to exit. It's not going to be a single click, but that's not perhaps what people need anyway, right? Those applications may need to be rebuilt, refactored, changed, right? So you don't necessarily want to put those 10 apps over one at a time identical. Yeah, that's maybe also a good moment to refactor some. That's what we believe in.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, so we're definitely not trying to minimize this concern, right? It's a very, very valid concern, although it's present everywhere. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, probably it would have been a bigger concern, with Mendix being new, being very uncertain. Financial stability was to be questioned, and those things have drastically changed. And I think, again, and I might be repeating myself, but this is not going away. I think it's we need to touch upon the concerns and see how we can take that away, whether it's continuation or technical points that Menno just mentioned, and then I think we have good answers for that.
Yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning that low-code market is not a vacuum. Even for a market leader like Mendix, there's 3 other players, and you have to consider developers' opinion, the community, and the clients. You cannot just simply change your pricing or business model significantly, right? Through the time span of few days or months. So that's what I see. You communicate your roadmap, you meet with partners a lot, you gather feedback, and you make your business decisions based on that. So that's how it looks from my perspective. Okay, so staying in the uncomfortable topics, let's talk about limitations. Okay, we mentioned that you can add custom code on the back end, and on the front end, you can use JavaScript, you can use Java to really handle this missing 5% of your functional requirements. So let's try to explain where are the limitations and when low code is not a good option.
Should I take this one, Rick? Yeah. So I think let's first establish that you can basically build anything, but I'm not preaching here that that's a good idea, right? So there is definitely types of applications where I think you should carefully consider not using low code. And may sound funny, but we do advise our customers in this question whether or not it's a good fit or not, and we do say no once in a while. Let me give you a bit of a flavor on where that is. I think the most important thing to consider is, I mean, if you go on low code, you have a set of components in the box. We provide all kinds of user interaction elements, from simple text box to widgets to graphs, etc., and more sophisticated. And also functions, business functions that we provide in our microflows, like calculations and those kind of things. If you want to build an application, you have to use those components to be quick. If you have requirements where you simply know upfront that you're not going to be able to use, let's say, the standard components available, and mind you, there's a lot, but if you find them not available, you can, as I mentioned before, create them. But that defeats a little bit the purpose of low code, right? If you create too many of them yourself, you're on the wrong path. I think that's a clear guidance that I give to customers. Know what elements you have, how applications work, how they look, what functionality we provide as a low code offering as actions and such. And if you can stay within those boundaries, or you have a user population that is fine with 90% perfect, pixel perfect, and doesn't necessarily care about the rest of the 10%, it's an easy choice. If you need more, then it becomes a purposeful decision, right? If you have consumer-facing applications, you can't go for 90% pixel perfect. You need to go for 100%. But you have to be prepared to invest a little bit more in that, right? So, all these things that you can do in low code. Where it becomes, let's say, really tricky is, I would say, in perhaps in large data set analysis. That's typically not so much that low code is good in, for the simple reason that there's a certain abstraction layer on top of the database. I don't want to go into all the details, but if you want to do heavy mass transactions on large data sets for analysis, like IoT data, etc., that's probably not great.
Rick?
Yeah. So I know that your question was the limitations of the platform, and I think Menno just gave a good description about that. I just want to talk about when not to use Mendix, regardless of the limitations of the platform, because, but I advise people when not to use Mendix, when they can buy something off the shelf, as Menno already mentioned, or when you build something and it's never ever going to change, due to simply because there are no changes, or legally it's not even allowed to change, then I don't think low code or Mendix is the best platform, because it actually, the way it deals with change is one of the strengths of the platform. And if there's no change, then a large part of the benefit is actually gone. So just to add that as well.
The question is, can we ever assume that application will never change, right? This is, I think, very rarely the case.
Very rarely, unless for certain legislation, right? That it's simply not allowed to change. So yeah. But there's a few of those cases.
Yeah, so Menno, to wrap up what you said, so for me it means that if I have I need to put a lot of custom code to really achieve my goal. Let's say I have a very untypical UI, or I need a lot of custom libraries. There's no point in using low code, because you're gonna need to put all that code inside of custom widgets and custom libraries and plug all these elements into low code, only to add a few low code native forms inside of Mendix application, right? So it may be easier for you to handle all your custom code and the whole application outside of Mendix, right? So let's say we have 50% of custom UI. In such a situation, it would be, in your opinion, it would be better to use maybe different platform or just traditional programming?
Yeah, absolutely. If that is your single one application that you need to develop, low code probably is not the right platform to do it. if it is your 10th of many more applications to come, you can consider it still, right? Because you want to, you have already your practice on low code, and this is one application that is a little bit of an exception, then it's fine. And that's what sometimes our customers do. But in general, you're spot on. I think always evaluate what is the best technology, and sometimes you mix and match. Maybe for a specific app requirement, you decide, 70% is delivered by a standard component that I can find, maybe a service in one of the cloud, the hyperscalers, or a commercial off-the-shelf SaaS solution, and you build a 30% in low code. So I think that role is very important to make a very clear assessment of the functionality that somebody needs to build, and think of it, what part is low code and what is not. And what can I buy, what can I not buy, and makes these kind of decisions. That becomes critical, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good to mention that this is something that we can help our customers with as well, right? So, Mendix has been around for almost 17 years, and what we've seen is simply giving the platform to a customer and hoping them to be successful is not enough. We've had so many best practices over the years that we know the best way to adopt a platform. And one of the important steps is actually, we call it a portfolio workshop, where we together with the customer and the partner actually define okay, which applications do you have, which projects do you have, how does your potential portfolio look like, and which ones are suitable for Mendix and which are actually not. As mentioned, it's not in our interest to advise Mendix where it's actually not 100% fit. And then together on those potential projects, we define together with the customer, okay, what is your potentially first project and how can we make that into a success? So I think these best practices are becoming more and more important, and it's not just about adopting the technology, the platform, and then we can, develop applications 10 times faster. It's not how it works. So I would definitely advise to have the conversation with us and our partner, like yourself, to define okay, how can we best adopt this platform?
Yeah, you mentioned a very important thing that usually we have more than one application. It's an enterprise-grade platform, right? So most often you have more than one custom application in your app portfolio, and you just need to choose the right tool for the job. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the main subject of our live stream. We have only a few minutes left, so let's talk about innovation. Have you seen a situation where low code helps to create innovation in any sense? It doesn't have to be the latest, the newest technology, but have you seen Mendix in a position where it brought innovation to the company?
Yeah, I think we see it all the time, to be fair. There's a whole bunch of things happening in the technology world, right? So, ChatGPT, we haven't spoken about it that much, but these are all services, abilities that evolve in the cloud, and that customers are thinking about how can we benefit, capitalize those innovations from the various cloud vendors and what have you. And I think Mendix plays a critical part for some of our customers. They basically take Mendix application, basically glue those services together into meaningful new experiments at first, perhaps, and a real product set later, to explore new capabilities that evolve and glue it all together in a front end and with a bit of storage there. They mix and match all these things together to create innovation. I think that's a very very common use case that we see.
Yeah, I know we're almost out of time, but that is combining different points of technology, but as Mendix itself, and I've seen this happening for the last 10 years so many times, because you can develop so fast with such close interaction with the business. Innovation is not all about AI and ChatGPT and IoT. It's about little ideas coming to life, little ideas from people in the business that are walking around with brilliant ideas, but just didn't have the chance to put it into applications or software fast enough. And I've been with sessions with customers that, during the meeting and while building, new ideas popped up. And I think this incremental innovation is just as important as this big innovation that we see that everyone's talking about. And I think Mendix is an ideal catalysator for that small innovation. Yeah.
So it's not about new breakthrough machine learning algorithms, but it's about solving real customer problems, right? And accessibility, the easiness of solving those problems with tools like Mendix.
Yeah.
Okay, for the last few minutes, guys, there's one topic that for me is very interesting, and it keeps coming back. This is a lot of questions from our clients regarding this matter. Tell me, is it possible to build off-the-shelf product with a tool like Mendix? Let's say I want to start a SaaS business, right? And I want to build maybe health information system. And is it possible to scale Mendix like that and build business around it?
Yes. That's the very short answer. And I'll explain you why. So over the last 10 years, I've had many conversations with all types of customers. And I think, sometimes people look at our website and they get the idea that we're only, with large organizations, large enterprises, and we are. But we're also very much active in the mid-market and even startups. And I've been approached so many times with people, again, with a brilliant idea to build a new software product in Mendix. But I have to be honest, the last couple of years, we never had a very good commercial structure to tailor to these kind of ideas. And there was a high threshold. And I think that's something that we've invested in a lot for the last 2 years is our ISV program. And we're taking this very seriously to actually do allow those people that want to build a commercial software product on top of Mendix, because the platform is ideally positioned for that, and to give them also a financial commercial model to build out these products. So again, the very short answer is yes, and I would also advise to look at our ISV program on our website, because I think it's a great addition to what we already had.
Okay, Menno, would you like to add something?
No, I don't think I need to. I mean, from a platform perspective, I think we've proven over time that we can cater to such SaaS-based applications where a lot of users in a multi-tenant way are being serviced by these type of apps. So I think from a technology perspective, we've always been able to do this. And I think the ISV model that Rick just described makes it commercially very interesting to do, building on top of, I would argue, one of the most solid low-code vendors around. Financially backed by Siemens. It's a healthy choice, I think, for most of our ISV type customers.
So for those who are listening to us and may not be familiar with ISV, can you tell us a few more words about this concept, about this program, how it works?
Yeah, so the easiest way to start is first explain what is an ISV, right? So an ISV is where you build a commercial software product on the Mendix platform, but the end customer will not buy Mendix; they will buy X, service X, right? Whatever you call it, and we are just simply part of that product, or the product is based on the platform. And that's basically it. And yeah.
So you deliver the platform, but it's transparent for the end customer, right? They don't know that they're buying Mendix. They buy a product delivered by your partner who participates in ISV program.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Okay. At the end, gentlemen, if you could, because I know that Mendix 10 is around the corner. Is it possible for you to at least point maybe the areas of improvement in Mendix 10, or maybe you can give us a sneak peek of some detail, what's coming new in Mendix 10?
Yeah. Shall I take this one, Rick?
So
Mendix 10 is we're scheduling this for summertime. Then Mendix 10 will be released, and in all transparency, Mendix 10 is a period. So we have various versions. So, and We as a company never had the the strategy to release one big version and then do nothing for a long time. We release very gradually to make it easier to absorb all the new things we bring. So summertime we have Mendix 10. There's a couple of key themes there. I think the most important one, well, the top important ones are the developer experience. We're taking developer experience to the next level. We're going to make it so much easier still to develop applications. So really from a pure pro or technical developer perspective, making it simpler, making it faster to develop. Another big thing will be for us to evolve further on our cloud deployment capabilities. So broadening the scope of delivering those things you built into a cloud native structure into the various places where you want as a customer to run it. And we focus heavily on solving or making it easier to integrate. Integration is probably the biggest hurdle. You build something fast, you can deploy it fast, but integrating seems to be still difficult. So we're going to be intensifying our capabilities in that space as well. And last but not least, worth mentioning is we've learned over many years, that not installing, but embedding low code in an organization in a big fashion is not easy always. We have a digital transformation program that came with a lot of tools, and basically we're giving a lot of the tools back in the platform. So mid-size and large-size organizations can really quickly embrace the low-code concept. So there's a lot of details. We don't have time for that right now, but if you keep a close track of our web portals, you'll see us reveal more over time.
That sounds exciting. I can't wait to put my hands on Mendix 10 in that case. Gentlemen, we run out of time. I thank you for joining our live stream. We could probably talk another hour about this, but we need to finish at this point. So once again, thank you for your participation. Thank you, folks, all the listeners, for stopping by. Stay tuned for more low-code and no-code live streams from Netguru. That's it for today. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you.